It is no secret the Democrats are highly organized. They run a propaganda machine like no other party. In many respects, the Republicans have a hard time competing with the propaganda machine that the Democrat Party really is. This latest talking point of the Democrats, that democracy is under attack if somehow President Trump retakes the White House, is nonsensical. But I want to prove to you why it's propaganda and how I know it is highly organized. Here's Joe Biden over the weekend.
America, as we begin this election year, we must be clear. Democracy is on the ballot. Your freedom is on the ballot.
In many respects, I agree with him. But it's on the ballot if he were to get in, all those things that are at stake. They're absolute hypocrites here. But they don't have any policies to run on. They're an abject failure right now, the Biden administration is. So all they can do is attack president and deal in fear porn. He is the one that is most certainly a threat to national security. So here comes the army of propagandists, marched out over the weekend on all the Sunday morning talk shows to talk about Donald Trump as the threat to democracy. This is his deputy campaign manager for Biden.
We chose Valley Forge, George Washington, as you just said, unionized colonies there and brought them all together. And then he became president and set the precedent for, a peaceful transition of power, something that Donald Trump and Republicans refused to do just as late as yesterday. We believe that they pose an existential threat to democracy. And over the last 4 years, that threat to democracy has only grown.
An existential threat to democracy or an existential threat to the deep state? I think it's probably the latter. I think the Democrats are so afraid with President Trump's vows now to drain the swamp. They want to criticize him for saying he is our retribution. You better believe he will be our retribution. We finally want real criminals to be charged with real crimes and go to prison for those crimes. Not charging patriots for no crimes and sending them to prison for nothing. There's a big difference here. See, the Democrats are the existential threat. They'll even march out the rhinos, the never-Trumpers, those who are upset with President Trump for one reason or another. This is Mark Esper, who was former Deputy Secretary of Defense under President Trump.
But since today is January 6th, 3 years after the attack on the Capitol, I'm just curious, Mr. Secretary, do you view Donald Trump as a threat to American democracy?
It is a tragic day in our nation's history. And yes, I do regard him as a threat to democracy. Democracy as we know it, our institutions, our political culture, all those things that make America great and have defined us as, the oldest democracy on this planet.
Really explain to me how President Trump is a threat to any of those things. We had him for 4 years. He didn't threaten our democracy. In fact, he made our democracy better. You want to see proof of a real threat to our democracy? Just look at this video shot over the weekend of Joe Biden returning on Marine One. I have never in all my years, I'm 54 years old, soon to be 55. I've been covering news and politics for almost all of my adult life. I've never seen anything like this from a sitting president. He is so confused, so out of touch, so in his own land here. He's asking generals where to go. What is he doing? How many times has he landed on Marine One? You're supposed to get into the beast, the presidential motorcade. He can't figure that out. If you land at the White House, you walk to the White House. This guy is a national security threat because of his incomprehension, because of his dementia, and because we have real dangerous people pulling his strings. So President Trump put it perfectly when he was responding to the claims that he's the threat to democracy.
This guy goes around and says, I'm a threat to democracy. No, he's a threat because he's incompetent. He's a threat to democracy. You can be grossly incompetent and be a threat to democracy because he's got us into wars. We're in wars now. You look at the Middle East. Look at what happened in Ukraine. That would have never happened. These things would have never happened. Inflation would have never happened. The attack on Israel would never happen. The attack on Ukraine would never have. All these things would never have happened.
Well, we know that's true. And thank you, Mr. President, because it didn't happen under his watch.